Welcome back to Double Play.
You've got to get better at the
Chris
intros, man.
Klemmer,
My
and next
God.
to me is Brandon Walker. Today we are talking about two basketball movies. We
Welcome
have Hoosiers
back.
and Eddie.
Hello, everybody. It is Double Play.
It's awful.
Hey, y'all.
Ugh, gross.
Double Play.
No.
You just sit there looking emaciated. Welcome back. Yeah, what
You
are we
look
doing?
swollen.
I feel swollen.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I feel swollen. What are we doing? We're doing two basketball
I just
movies.
said it. Hoosiers and Eddie.
So hey, what we do on this show, we look at the best and the worst of sports cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me feel fancy when I say sports cinema.
Yeah,
Last week we looked at
word
one of
there.
the best baseball movies, Moneyball, and one of the worst, Ed.
Ed, yeah. It's one of the worst movies, period.
And
Not just baseball movies.
we've taken that concept this week to the 1986 classic with Gene Hackman, Hoosiers, and the 1996
96, yeah.
96 abortion of a movie, Eddie. Starring Whoopi Goldberg. So, had you ever seen Eddie?
I have never seen Eddie before, no.
I had seen Eddie back in the 90s.
Okay. In the theaters or like?
No, just at home. So it was early days of just, I think I had a Prime Star satellite.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Way back.
And that was the first time that I really had access to you could just buy a movie and have it all day. And I remember spending like $2.99. I'd get home from school and I'd pick out what movies. It'd be like the Dragonheart or the Frighteners, or just thinking of movies.
Frighteners actually isn't a bad movie.
Dragonheart's not a bad movie.
I haven't seen Dragonheart. Frighteners is not bad.
Dragonheart was Quaid as a knight, and
Oh.
Sean Connery was the dragon.
Oh, all
Was it
right.
Connery? I think it was Connery. Do you like Dragonheart? Yeah. I like Dragonheart a lot. Frighteners was okay.
Yeah.
But it's really kind of the same era of as Ed.
Yeah. Eddie and Ed.
Right.
Yes.
Eddie and Ed are in the same year.
Yeah.
Ed and Eddie.
Right.
Not Ed, and Eddie.
No.
That's a cartoon.
Okay. If you say so, I don't really do cartoons. I don't really
Ed,
know.
Ed, and Eddie.
I love Ed, Ed and Eddie.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is.
I
but-
think most of those Cartoon Network shows around then, they like poisoned the youth's brains.
You're so old. I mean, how old is he?
I'm younger than you.
No, you're not.
I am.
In life, you're not.
Well,
Look at me. I'm wearing Air Force Ones.
you always go to
Wow.
your shoes. Whenever your age comes up, you always immediately go to your
With
shoes.
the
Like your shoes
with
of youth.
the
Macho
maroon
Man
bottoms.
Yeah, look at this. Is that not? I'm young as hell.
Man,
Look at him.
he's a sneakerhead.
Yeah, he thinks that means he's young. Like he has sneakers.
I
Brand-
live young.
Brandon's on
No, you
StockX.
don't.
I live young.
I live younger. I was out later.
What are
than
you
last
gonna
night.
do? What are you gonna do tonight when you get home?
Uh,
What are you gonna do tonight when you get home?
I'm probably gonna watch a movie tonight. Well, my wife's out of town on business, so I'm just gonna be like, just hang out with the dogs.
What normal night you get home? What do you do?
On a weeknight, usually I hang out with my wife and we watch a movie, watch TV. Maybe we'll go out and get dinner in the city.
You're lying. When
I'm
do you-
not.
When do you play out of the park baseball?
Oh, I do that after she goes to bed usually. Like between like midnight and 1 a.m. Doing a little baseball simulator.
By the way, I've been talking to out of the park
Yeah. I was
on,
like,
on DM. I'm trying to. I want to start. I want to start.
you can just buy it and it can start.
No, I don't buy things.
Yeah. I thought you were rich.
I am. Rich people don't buy shit.
No.
No.
That $40 gonna break you?
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah, I bet it would.
So all right, we're talking Hoosiers.
Yeah.
We're talking Eddie.
Yeah.
You had never seen Eddie.
Never seen Eddie. But we talk about the good movie first.
We will.
All right.
I just find it interesting that I had seen it and you hadn't.
That's
Me seeing,
fascinating stuff.
me seeing it's a big upset because it's not a good movie.
No, it's not good.
This I've seen a lot.
Yeah, as have I.
How many times have you seen it?
I'd say about probably 25 times, and I'll say this: each time I see it, I like it less.
You've seen Hoosiers. Hold on. You've seen Hoosiers 25 times?
Oh, probably, yeah.
I'd say I've seen it 50.
Yeah, it was on all the time. Like it was a big part of.
So you guys are big rewatch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll rewatch stuff, but it's been around our lives for
This is
35 years.
It came out when we were 7.
Yeah,
This is a comfortable movie.
it's always been there. It's always playing.
It's like a blanket.
Yeah,
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
it's just one of those. It's just
I had this movie on VHS. Then I had it on DVD.
I did not have it on VHS, but I have it on DVD and Blu-ray. So
Yeah.
I've gone 2
I
generations.
mean,
as well.
I have loved Hoosiers since it came out in 1986. If you were, before we started this, and we're actually going through the exercise in long form, if you were asked your top 5 favorite sports movies, do you think that's on it? Certainly on mine.
10 years ago, absolutely. Now, no.
What makes you like it less? I guess we're going to get into it, but
Yeah,
that's an interesting theory that I guess when you when a movie enters the rewatchable phase of your life, you've pretty much formed your opinion on it. So the fact that every time you rewatch it, it chips away at the veneer of it a little bit is interesting to me.
It's interesting to me too, because you're right. Usually those things, even you have like that nostalgia.
Like Rocky's
twitch.
locked in. There's nothing happened with Rocky that would lessen it in your eyes.
No, Rocky. I don't think so. Not yet. There's one scene that's kind of problematic with the with him and Adrian when he kind of traps her in his apartment. But other than that, no. Like Rocky's just flat out great. Hoosiers, I'm seeing the flaws. The biggest flaw in this movie by far is the Barbara Hershey character. I mean, she's terrible. I mean, it is the coldest. At one point, he asks her out on a date. He says, "Hey, you want to go see a movie?" And what does she do? She brings up the worst moment in his life.
So, if I were nitpicking this movie, which I guess we are.
That's not nitpicking. She's a major role. She's third billed.
If I had to nitpick this movie.
It's not nitpicking.
Can you let me talk?
Well, you're not speaking correctly.
If I had to nitpick this movie, I haven't said you are. If I had to, I certainly start with the relationship between Norman Dale and this absolute scab of a woman. She's
horrible.
She is a miserable prick. And I don't mean to get into this, but it's not exactly a visually appealing matchup of people. Like Gene Hackman, I don't need to see him romance anybody. And they're like she is, well, first of all, Norman Dale, Gene Hackman's character, disgraced former college basketball coach, former national championship winning college basketball coach, disgraced because he punched a player 30 years ago.
Right.
20 years ago.
20 years ago, right.
Shows up in this very small Indiana town, backwater Indiana town, who is used to being pretty good at basketball.
Are you explaining the plot of Hoosiers?
But they live it, right? They live it. Okay. I am explaining the plot of Hoosiers.
I think people have seen it.
To the point that I'm going to make. Why is he being a dick today?
I don't think I am.
I think that's just how he is.
I mean, yeah,
I mean, what I'm saying is right along, to make a point, I'm laying out a little bit of what's happening here, right? This guy, disgraced coach, shows up in this town to be their high school basketball coach, and every single person in this little town is a fucking dick to him.
Awful.
They're awful people. They
Awful.
are. Now, does the setup make a little more sense now? Maybe you could have let me get there.
You could have just jumped right to there, though. I think.
No, this is where the guy's coming from, where he's going, and how they treat him. The townspeople are assholes, including this Barbara Hershey character who ends up being his love interest by the end. By the way, they don't really build the love interest. It's just bad meeting. Hey, I kind of like you. Let's kiss.
Yeah, right.
She might be the most unlikable character in any movie.
She's so frigid.
I mean, the whole town's frigid.
Oh, the town's mean.
Yeah.
I hate Hickory.
Have you guys ever been to Indiana?
I have.
I've never have.
You think this is
Hickory's
well
like that? Like, I don't know. Like, Hickory sounds awful.
So it's a small town, all white. There's 4 or 5 there's 5 players on the team when he gets there. Well, there's 7 players on the team when he gets there. It ends up being 5 and goes back up. But they're like having these Rockwellian type meetings in the barber shop where the whole town's sitting there and they're discussing manners on defense. And the coach walks in and there's friendly handshakes at first, but they just rip into him.
Not even a hello. It's just, it's instant criticism. But to your, can I do a quick nitpick? So you mentioned
no. I think people know the plot of the movie. I don't think we can nitpick this movie. I'm not going.
No, I
don't think we
I'm not giving a whole synopsis of Hoosiers.
I don't think we can nitpick this movie.
Everyone, I don't think we can nitpick it. So you mentioned there were 5 players. Well, there were 7, and there were 5. You ever notice that 7th player just comes back on the team?
8, buddy.
Right. Well, 8.
Yeah.
But
he's written down.
Okay.
So
it becomes 8, but even before that.
So he shows up to the. No, it goes back to 7. It comes down to 5.
Right.
Rafe comes back, or Butcher comes back.
Right.
Jimmy comes back. That gets him to 7.
Oh, the kid comes back before Jimmy comes back. He's on the bench. It's so bizarre, and there's no explanation.
Do you think Buddy's already back?
Yeah, he is.
So Buddy is the first. He gets to his first practice, Norman Dale, and he throws Buddy out.
Right.
And Buddy tells Rafe Butcher, or maybe the other Butcher, but he tells him, "Hey, come on," and he goes with him. Well, Rafe's dad brings him back the next day, but Buddy we don't hear from him again, and then all of a sudden, an hour in the movie, he's just on the bench playing
Pops
ball.
Up on the bench.
And we never get it explained.
No,
and you had a Blu-ray, and does this get explained in deleted scenes?
I don't know. I didn't watch the deleted scenes.
Why wouldn't you watch the deleted scenes?
I don't like doing that. Because I feel, especially if we're
so the movie is the movie.
If we're going to criticize the movie, like the movie is the movie, ideally.
To me, I only like deleted scenes of movies I really love because it gives me more of the movie. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I use this a lot, but That Thing You Do is one of my favorite movies, and it has terrific deleted scenes. And I like to watch it because it gives me more of the universe that I love.
That's fair. I understand that.
Now, I don't know how you want to pick apart Hoosiers, but let me just start with this question. You said the sentence, every time I watch it, I like it a little bit less. Right. Explain that.
Well, you notice things. Obviously, like you said, you notice that seventh player just magically appearing. But honestly, the main thing, and maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but like the Barbara Hershey stuff when I was a kid watching it, I didn't really care as much because like I don't really care about the love stuff. And just, but now that I'm older, I'm like, who behaves like this? What adult, like, and I get it that she's probably the only single reasonably attractive woman in the entire county, probably. I get all that. But like Gene, like, there's got to be another option here. Or just stay away from this horrible woman. There's no good that comes from her. And she doesn't like him. She's miserable. And I get she's lonely too, but like, they are just so unhappy.
Well, I just wonder, when we watched Normandale in this movie, we watch him with the kids and practicing basketball. When he leaves, he ain't got no friends.
No.
He ain't got no companionship. Like, nobody in the town likes him. Nobody in the town wants him there. It's a miserable place. And I guess this was accurate and true and everything, but it's just a gray-ass town.
Oh,
and I don't think the sun shines in this movie.
Well, there's a reason, not a reason for that, but I guess all but 2 of the days it did rain there, and the director was just like pulling his hair out, being like, "Oh my god!" But it's
the
true.
sun does not shine in this movie.
No. It's every day it rained.
It's the grayest movie I have ever seen in my life. Every single outdoor scene is just gray and ugly and blustery. Like it doesn't paint a pretty picture of the town. But those two things can't make like. If I watch it every time, I dislike it a little bit more every time. Something else has to be at play.
There's a few other things too. So another thing is we talked about with Hickory being horrible, like the Friday Night Lights show.
Right.
I've never seen the movie, the show. Dylan, Texas is the villain. Like that's and even say like Deviltown plays the rat. Like it's pretty clear that's the bad guy. Hickory is the bad guy here. Like you hate Hickory, and like unlike Friday Night Lights where it's like, all right, I kind of feels like us against them. I feel like part of the movie is him becoming embraced by this evil town, and it's like I don't really like that. I don't like how it concludes. I also have an issue with, and this is a Bill Simmons take, but Normandale is a shitty coach.
Okay, so that's a Bill Simmons take, right? That I've heard it and everything. That's just it's like the thing about The Office when somebody 5 years after The Office ended said, you know what, Pam Beasley's actually an awful person, and now everybody in the world says, oh, you know what, Pam Beasley's an awful person. You
start looking for it.
If you take any coach in the history of basketball, football, baseball, and watch in movie form his games, you will see crescendos and you will see bad decisions, good decisions. Yeah, he had a couple times where he famously at the end, they're coming in the state championships, tied at 40, and Jimmy walks over there. He's got one great player, Jimmy Chitwood, and he says, Jimmy, we're going to use you as a decoy, and we're going to give it to this guy. And they all, like, their shoulders sink, and Jimmy says, I'll make it. Isn't it a good coach move to then say, okay, well, good, take it, Jimmy?
That's not even my biggest problem with him. Like, telling the ref that Dennis Hopper is the assistant coach for no reason, not a great idea. Also, until Jimmy gets there, they suck.
Well, Jimmy's a great player.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No. I know. I guess, anyway, that makes it more true to like the NBA,
Jimmy.
I guess.
Can we talk about Jimmy?
Okay.
Just another miserable... Oh, what's happened in his life?
So
that
unhappy.
that he's like, he acts like he's a war veteran. He acts like he's got like things in his closet, like nothing. He's morose. He's
miserable.
He's just miserable. He never smiles, and all he does in the day is just shoot baskets. And I don't know where do these people derive their happiness?
Right. I guess just hating the coach.
Now we're nitpicking because I love this movie.
So the Jimmy thing also there's another reason I don't like the movie too. The Jimmy Chitwood character. Why does he all of a sudden decide, if I play, it has to be for this guy? Like, you've never once shown any sort of like, he went and talked to you a couple times, but like, why are you so loyal to this guy?
I think that's pretty well. I think he appreciates the fact that guy left him alone. That the entire town is on his ass about playing basketball. Probably the only thing he ever hears. Probably if he goes to the store, Jimmy, when are you going to play basketball? If he goes to get his haircut, Jimmy, when are you going to play basketball?
Yeah, right.
This guy didn't do that.
But he kind of did bother him, though. He didn't leave him alone.
He wouldn't talk to him once.
All right.
And he said, during the talk, hey, I can say it's your gift. You do whatever you want with it. And because it's your gift, you do whatever you want.
Right.
I don't care if you play on this team or not. Gave him the ball. And it's in your court.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not going to force you. So I think when the same townspeople that were making Jimmy's life hell for not playing basketball started making this guy's life hell, there was a kinship. And there was like, okay, well, that's my guy now.
It's a fair explanation.
That's a terrific explanation.
It's a fair one. Yeah. I still don't like the character. I still don't like his motivations. I still don't like where we start with him, which is like he just bizarrely just hates basketball. Then he ends up playing basketball. It's very weird. He doesn't hate basketball because even when we see him, he's shooting.
Yeah.
So look, this is a movie that I do like.
I think he hates being the guy.
Obviously, yeah.
I think he hates being the hero of the town based on playing basketball.
But then at the end of the movie, he chooses to do that. Is that kind of his redemption? Like he's like,
maybe
I'll make the shot.
He accepts it. But I don't think. And I think that's one of the key parts of what Gene Hackman says to him. You have a gift. It's not Myra Fleener's gift. It's not my gift. It's not the townspeople's gift. It's your gift. And I think he realizes that along the way that, I can do this for me instead of everybody else.
So for me, this movie, when I saw it, as a growing up, a teenager or whatever, this is a great movie. It's downgraded to good for me, which is still a good movie.
I think it's
no longer great.
If it's not it's one of my, I always give this answer. My favorite sports movie is either Hoosiers or Major League, depending on my mood that day. Hoosiers is one of my very favorite sports movies. I think it's almost, we are obviously just spent the last 15 minutes nitpicking. I love it. I think it's close to perfect. I think it tells a terrific story. It's team, it's town, it's pride, it's everything. It's underdog. Like I think it's fantastic.
It's not close to perfect. We just went through a lot of reasons. Like Moneyball. Moneyball was perfect.
We're being dickheads and just nitpicking small things.
I don't think the Barbara Hershey's, like I said, she's third build. This is not we're picking some random actress. She's a major part of this movie.
Let me ask you some Oscar stuff.
Sure.
Oscar things.
A little bit.
Hackman didn't get nominated?
Only got 2 nominations for this movie. Best Supporting Actor, Dennis Hopper.
And he won, right?
He did not win.
He did not win.
It was the year Michael Caine won.
Okay.
And Jerry Goldsmith, who has a great score.
Oh, terrific score, yeah.
Amazing score in this.
When after the scene where the town rallies around, or not rallies around, but they try to fire Normandale, and Jimmy walks in and says, hey, if I play, Coach stays. After that scene, it launches into a montage where you got the buses and the cars running around Indiana, and you got the fading sky, and you got the music, and it really kicks in, and they start hitting the basketball, they start winning. Well, that 10 minutes is pretty elite. That's it's about as good as it gets when it comes to sports movies.
I agree. It's very strong. This is I guess kind of borderline nitpick as well. The more I watch the movie too, I just see how bad the actors are who play the kids.
Yeah, I guess.
Which you don't see in that montage because they're actually good basketball players.
Yeah.
So because of that, the scenes feel real. The athletic scenes.
A couple of them are bad. A couple of them are fine. It's crazy because I've watched this 50 times over 35 years.
Sure.
38 years now, right? No, yeah,
86?
38 years.
Oh
37 years.
Something like that, yeah.
I've watched it 50, 60 times over 37 years, and if you lined up the players, I couldn't tell you their characters' names. I name a couple. Rafe,
Ollie,
Strap, Ollie,
and Jimmy.
Buddy's the one that comes back, but I can't just look at him and say, "Oh yeah,
no.
yeah."
I know.
And like the characters of the players are not fleshed out at all.
No,
and they're just kind of there. You know that one by their face. You know that one by their face. So there is that. But
I think that's a weakness in the script.
I've got one beef with the beef people have with this movie, and I think it's ridiculous, and I think it's stupid. There are people in 2023 that believe there's a racial underpinning to this movie. That there's a, what I'm saying though. I'm not saying
exactly
you haven't.
No, I know.
There's people that believe it's a racial underpinning, that it's a white hero story overcoming the evil black person or something, and that is problematic. That in the final game they beat a team with black players and a black coach. And to that I say, stop ruining every single thing with your opinions about race where they don't really belong. This is an underdog story. This is a tiny school in Indiana with like 60 kids in the school, And if they got in 1951 to the finals of that tournament, they would be playing a team from South Bend or Gary, or they would be playing a team that has very good basketball players that might be black. That's who they would be playing. And it is never mentioned in the final game, oh my God, these guys are we're going to beat these guys because they're black and we're white. No, it's not. They're good basketball players. And we're small town. We're going to try to beat them, but anybody that assigns a racial motive to the story here is being disingenuous.
And also inaccurate. So, like, let's go through some of the people they play. They play against some real asshole coaches, some real asshole players, all white. At the end, you're right, they play a black coach and it has some black players. All those guys that's the most respectful coach we see the entire movie is the black coach. And the black players seem just really talented guys.
There's no animosity ever.
None.
There's no let's get them. There's none of that. It's.
I mean, if that's what we do. If you're living in a world where the only possible outcome is the minorities or whatever win all the time, it's like, well, that's not always accurate. Now, but these guys seem like great guys too. Like I don't know. The racial thing to me doesn't hold any water.
No, but it's out there.
I know. I've seen it.
It's ridiculous that you would. Underdogs. There were 7 of them, and they were all tiny, and there was nothing special about that. Like, town's got 400 people in it, and they're playing a team from South Bend. Like, that's an underdog story. Forget about the race. You leaned up like you was about to say something.
Oh, no.
Oh, good. Don't ever lean up again then. I don't know why he leaned up. I love the movie, Chris. I love the movie. I love everything about it.
Racist.
Do you subscribe to that theory?
No, but I can definitely see where people would draw the assumption.
Well, that's
Why?
a dumb assumption.
Because it's the whitest town in America, and then they go up against an all-black school.
But that's who they would.
It wasn't all black.
I'm not saying I agree with the
That's who
assumption.
they would play.
I'm just saying that I see where the assumption comes from.
That's a problem. If this true to life story in any way offends your racial sensibilities, you're too sensitive about it.
I also think you're looking for
looking to be
for
pissed,
racism, which
yeah.
I think
looking. Yeah.
I think that does real racism a disservice because if we're gonna, it's like the boy who cried wolf. Like there is real racism goes on. Like there aren't enough black directors. There aren't enough movies made for black audiences or even for white audiences to like. There's so many issues where something like that I feel like you're forcing.
Dennis Hopper.
Yes.
Got nominated for this?
Yep.
Is he getting enough of this movie to get nominated for this?
Supporting actor, I think so.
I mean, he's like kind of in the movie. Like I would say he's in the movie. His scenes added up 20 minutes?
I think that's fair. Now, this is the year Michael Caine won for Henner and Sisters. This is also the year, probably most famously, the 2 Platoon guys got nominated, Berenger and Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
I don't know if Hopper. I was too young to obviously remember this award. I don't know if Hopper was ever considered a favorite or not. But obviously, the Platoon won Best Picture that year. And Michael Caine was. I remember him winning was a big deal. It was his first Oscar, I believe.
Now, the movie itself. All right, so
and I think Hopper does a good job here.
You think? I think Hackman does a great job. I think Hackman's fantastic.
Hackman's always great.
He is always great, but like, look at him. That's a high school basketball coach in the 50s. Every mannerism, every way he talks in practice, every way he talks in the game, it just feels like it's perfect. And I think. Obviously, Gene Hackman had a long and storied career.
Amazing career. One of the greatest actors.
But when I think of Gene Hackman, I do think of this first.
That's a great. So I was talking about this with someone. I think it was Vibs, and we are kind of going over like what would let's say Gene Hackman dies. What's going to be the in memoriam shot you get? Yeah. And I think it's Hoosiers. I mean, the conversation is he's better and it's an amazing performance.
He's not dead?
He's not dead. Gene Hackman's still alive.
I thought he was dead.
No, still alive.
Good for him.
He's in his 90s.
You want to fact check that?
Oh, I'm 100% positive.
Okay.
Unforgiven.
Yeah.
He won an Oscar for that.
Yeah.
But I still think this is probably his most memorable performance, right? Like this is what you'd show.
I think that shot right there is what you show.
I think you're right.
I think that picture right there is what you show. Now that's probably not what you show for Whoopi, but that's what you show for Gene Hackman.
I mean, he's great in Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah.
I mean, he's great. He's like I said,
he's a phenomenal actor.
He might be top 5 greatest actors ever lived. And he's incredible. But even though I don't think this is his best performance, it's probably his most iconic.
I don't know movies to the level that you know movies, but if there are better Gene Hackman performances out there, I would be very impressed. Yeah,
Unforgiven. I don't think this is his best performance.
Unforgiven won Best Picture too, right?
It did.
I never saw Unforgiven. But I can imagine where a Western with Gene Hackman and Clint Eastwood would be pretty good.
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Richard Harris.
Have you ever seen Quick and the Dead?
I have.
Yeah, that's fun
Sharon
too.
Stone?
And Leonardo DiCaprio and Gene Hackman.
Huh. I did not see that one.
Very fun movie.
It is very good. Very underrated.
I saw Tombstone. That is my answer to that.
Tombstone's good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Very good.
Very good movie.
Good.
Yeah, I don't think this is Hackman's. This wouldn't even crack my top 5 performances, I don't think. But that's not a knock. He just, like, look at his range, though. He's so stoic there, right?
Yeah.
And then look at Superman when he's kind of this wild bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, Gene Hackman can do anything. He's so great.
So.
And he's great here. He's the MVP of this movie.
Another. Well, he'd almost have to be. Yeah. I mean, it's written.
Not even, right.
Everything about it, this character. But Dennis Hopper obviously is very good too. Chelsea Ross.
Your guy.
My guy.
You love this guy.
When we did this, we did 4 episodes of this podcast earlier, and I don't know what we'll do with it. But I mentioned Sports Movie Hall of Famers, and there are actors that just happen to show up in multiple sports movies that you don't really see all that much otherwise. Chelsea Ross, if you needed in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, if you needed a dick bag, if you needed somebody to give the main character motivation, if you needed somebody to tell them they can't do it, Chelsea Ross was your guy. Chelsea Ross shows up here for the first time. He's in Hoosiers, and he is the leading guy that tries to get him fired.
He's the face of Hickory.
He's the face of Hickory. He's the face of the angst of Hickory, of the anger of their fan base. And he's also the guy, his name was George, the character that was running practices before Normandale got there.
Great scene, but that's a great scene.
I think
I love that scene.
I think it's a little much.
I really enjoy it.
Every time George talks, I'm like, you could have said that in 3 words. He's like, listen, mister, there's 2 kinds of dumb.
Yeah.
There's the kind of guy that, and he just goes on and on and on and on.
I don't think that's part of
that. Even
that.
Hackman's like, all right, you get to the point. And what'd he say? If I don't know where he found you, but if it were up to me, I'd hide strap your ass to the Monongahela line and send you something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, everything he says is
Could you leave the ball, George? It's great.
Chelsea Ross is George here. In Rudy, he is Dan Devine, who gets hired to be Notre Dame's coach, and then he tells Rudy he's not going to play. And then in Major League, he's Eddie Harris, crafty veteran pitcher who hates on Wild Thing and hates on Pedro Serrano the whole time.
So the Rudy comparison, or the Rudy nod there, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Dave Anspaugh, we've saying that right, is the director, and Angelo Pizzo is the writer of this, and both directed and wrote Rudy. Same team.
So the same team that did this did Rudy?
Yes.
That's interesting.
And Jerry Goldsmith did the
checks
score.
out.
Because quality-wise, this is just so much better than Rudy.
No, but it has a lot of the kind of cliche
It
stuff.
does. It has the...
I think it works better in Hoosiers than it does in Rudy.
Well, it has the... obviously, he goes through something bad at first. He shows up somewhere that he doesn't really belong. And then ultimately, he works his way in and success comes. So, yeah, it's very, very similar.
This
in
is
that.
a better...
But that's just a sports movie.
This is a better movie. That's not even knocking against Rudy. I mean, Gene Hackman or Sean Austin. Yeah, like what are we like? That's not a fair.
Yeah.
Like you have Gene Hackman in your movie, it's just gonna be better.
Yeah, and I don't know. This is one of those movies that I can just throw on at any time. It's on HBO Max, I believe. I can just if I'm looking for something to watch to lay down and slow down at night, I'll throw on Hoosiers and just at any point and be fine, be happy.
What are you giving this 1 to 100?
I give it a 97.
Oh. Come on, you get money. Why
are you surprised? I already told you I love it. I already told you I will go to the mat for it. I already told you it's one of my top 2 sports movies. Why does that surprise you?
No, that's okay. That's fair. I was just giving you guff.
Yeah, it's a 97. I love it. I absolutely adore this movie. I remember the first time I watched it, I was getting babysat by my great aunt in her house in Starkville, and she said, "Well, I have this movie you could watch." And for 2 hours in the afternoon, she's put it on. I just watched it, and I was like, I was 8, 7. I didn't get the ideas behind it, but it was just basketball, and then I grew up with it, and I was able to. It's one of those movies. Nothing subliminal about it, but when I watch it, I do find another level of enjoyment every time. I do find something that I missed the first time.
Really?
Yeah, I really.
So I guess
do.
that's another thing I'm kind of missing from this. I don't. I feel
you don't get.
I don't know. I don't find the new things. I just find that I kind of start to slowly not like the old.
The
things
good
so
of this movie: Gene Hackman, Dennis Hopper.
Yep.
The basketball, the story,
the score,
the bad Barbara Hershey.
Oh, the acting by basketball.
I can get over that because if you're in a sports movie, if you have to almost make a decision. Am I going to want to make it look good on the basketball court, or am I going to want the lines read properly? It's very rare you're going to be able to do both. And I can't remember. I think Friday Night Lights, a movie, which we'll get to eventually, does it tremendously.
Miracle does a good job with it.
Miracle but it just doesn't ask its hockey actors to do much. Basically just says go out and play hockey. This one kind of asks them to do a little bit.
Yeah, I think the screenplay has some issues with some dialogue stuff. I'm going to give this an 83.
83, Klemmer, come the fuck on. Are you kidding me?
That's pretty good.
83?
It's a good movie.
For Hoosiers?
It's not great. It's good.
83.
83.
You're giving it a C.
No, that's not a C. It's 50's average.
You're giving it a low B, a B minus.
Giving it a B.
83 for Hoosiers?
A B plus even. Yeah.
That means if I'm
B
just
plus.
if I'm just
That's a B plus.
That's not a B plus.
If 50 is a C.
How's 50? When's
50's
what
average.
System is 50
That's what we just decided last week. Where's
Where's 50 a C?
50's average.
Have you ever been in school?
We're not doing that. We're not doing school grades here.
But the way I think you're sliding things, you had 98 last week for Moneyball.
Yeah.
Right?
No, 96.
Yeah, 96.
Yeah.
I think you're going to keep it. So you're basically keeping 17 slots open ahead of Hoosiers.
I don't look at it that way. I just look at it like this is.
What way do you look at things?
This is worse than Moneyball.
I disagree with that.
Yeah.
But 83 means you think it's worse than a lot of movies. A lot of sports movies.
I don't know about that. We'll see. 83 is pretty high.
We're doing a sports movie podcast.
Anything
you understand that?
Anything over 80 is a good movie. That's a good movie. I don't say good movie all that often. That's a good movie.
81's a good movie.
Yeah. If I had an 81, it's a good movie. For me, that's good. 80s is good. 90s is great.
You ever seen this movie?
I have. You don't want to know my score.
What? No, I do.
In a sports movie score, it'd be like, 80 to 85.
No, all movie score.
Be like 75, 70.
Oof.
What do you not like about it?
It's very cliche. I don't like the basketball scenes. I think
but it was made in 1986.
The pop it, like the plays, like the whole basketball scenes I don't like. So get that out of the way. Like the shots from underneath the basket, the crescending score, I disagree. I don't like that score at all.
I
think it gets overused, and it's like the whole movie.
You mean this?
It's a cliche onto itself, which
I'll tell you another thing I like. No, I'm
but it's not bad.
We're both very old.
Yeah.
You're older than me.
No, I'm not.
You live old.
I don't.
When I was growing up playing basketball, I'm from a small town, 8,000 people, in Mississippi, and the gyms in Hoosiers are identical to the gym I would play basketball when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. Really?
You are old.
Well, yeah.
You had like the clock that would never digital clock?
It didn't work, but it had the clock on the wall. It had the almost identical, the bleachers, the material they're made of, the how you would stomp on them to make noise. It was just I played in a gym almost exactly like that. The walls, the old creaking walls.
Wow.
Yeah.
We had hard plastic bleachers. We didn't have that like wood.
Well, you didn't grow up with character like me. You grew up in a douchebag, liberal ass part of this country.
New Hampshire?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You say New Hampshire's not liberal?
Well, it didn't used to be. It used to be very conservative.
Jed Bartlett's from New Hampshire.
It's a fictional character.
He's still from New Hampshire.
No,
who's the best basketball player to come out of New Hampshire?
Matt Bonner?
Exactly.
Okay. I don't know.
Former Florida Gator and San Antonio Spur great Matt Bonner.
I could be wrong, but he was a couple years younger than me, right? Or a couple years older than me.
I assume everybody's a couple years younger than me. Let's close the book on Hoosiers.
Quick, one last thing to his point about being cliche. You said, it's old. Roger Ebert in his review criticized it for being a little cliche at times. So I think even in '86 it was a little cliche.
I don't know that we had really discovered much nuance for our sports movies in 1986.
It was a complaint.
Rocky had some.
Yeah, I mean, underdog comes. I guess it's more that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what people typically want in a sports movie. That's why I kind of like Moneyball. Was it kind of took some different routes.
I love Hoosiers.
Okay.
And I'm not.
I like Hoosiers.
83 is madness to me.
I like Hoosiers. I love Moneyball.
All right.
Do you love Moneyball?
Huh?
Do you love Moneyball?
I like Moneyball.
Do you love Moneyball?
No. I don't. I like it. The highest level of like you can have without loving it, that's where I'm at. Like if like was a sliding scale.
Yeah, right. It goes right to that.
The next step is me saying I love you, Moneyball, and I just don't quite say it. I can't really commit to it.
Okay. Well, here's a movie you love. 1996, Whoopi Goldberg epic. Eddie. This, by the way, is not available to be streamed anywhere, but luckily it's free on YouTube. Bizarrely. So you can watch the entirety of the movie on YouTube.
Yeah, I don't think YouTube's losing a lot of money on this one.
I don't think so. It just shows you how little the studio cares. Like, there's no copyright infringement. They're like, just do what you want with it.
You can have it.
Just air it wherever.
You can have it. So I'm trying to look right now at the Eddie movie release date.
Oh, I have
the
it.
poster.
So May 31st, 1996. So I'm going to go to Box Office Mojo. Actually, May 31st, you probably could have seen some good-ass movies. I wonder if, like, Twister was out yet? This is the... Okay. Yeah, exactly. All right. So before we get into this, if in... okay, first of all, Eddie is Whoopi Goldberg, who is a Knicks fan, because they might not have seen this movie.
This I'm fine with. This I'm fine with.
Eddie is she's a limo driver by day.
Yes.
And she is a Knicks super fan. And her and some buddies have seats like 3 rows from the top of the garden. And she goes every night. She's a sports radio caller. She calls and she hates on the Knicks, and she
loves the Knicks.
She loves on the Knicks, but she hates on the coach. She hates on. She's just a sports radio caller that lives, breathes New York Knicks basketball. The Knicks have a new owner, and Eddie picks him up unbeknownst to her one day from Teterboro, and drives him into the city. And he's doing an interview on the radio as being the new owner, and she calls in to lambaste him because there's a partition there. She doesn't see him. Anyway, she unwillingly drives the owner. And he likes her. He cooks a competition where she wins honorary coach for the evening. She comes down there, and he falls in love with her. Eventually, Eddie... Not
real love, though. Just, like, love the idea of her being the coach.
She falls in love with the idea of her being coach. He sees money signs. He sees dollar signs.
Right.
Ends up, the owner makes her the head coach of the New York Knicks, and there's your movie. Whoopi Goldberg goes from super fan to head coach of the New York Knicks. Now... If that doesn't make you want to rush out and see Eddie, whatever. I don't know. But on May 31st, 1996, here's what you could have gone to the theaters and seen. You could have seen Mission Impossible, the first one with Tom Cruise.
This is one of the 100 best movies of the 90s. Made my top 100 list.
You wouldn't have been upset if you went and saw that.
It was very good.
You could have gone and seen Twister.
Another one of my top 100 movies of the 90s.
Which was in its 4th week of... Can I tell you my Twister story?
Sure.
It was the movie I loved the most the first time I saw it at that point in my life. When I saw it the first time in the theater, this is a pun that I didn't mean to make. It blew me away. I was like, oh my God, movies don't get better than this. I watched it on Friday night, the night it opened, went back home, told my boys, hey, y'all got to go see Twister. They said, okay. I took them, we went and saw it the next night. I saw it twice, Friday and Saturday night.
The second time you see it, did you still think it was like the greatest thing of all time?
I still thought it was awesome. It wasn't until like the October.
You're a dumb kid, huh?
It wasn't until like October. I love weather. It wasn't until like October.
It's not an excuse.
When I got the VHS and I got it home and I was watching it, I was like, well, maybe not. You could have gone and seen Dragonheart, which I've already mentioned.
Talked about, yeah.
You never seen Dragonheart?
I never seen Dragonheart. No.
I like Dragonheart. Dragonheart is good. Eddie finished 4th in its opening weekend. It made $8 million. Not terrible. It doesn't say what they made it for, but $8,000. And then there was The Arrival, Spy Hard, Leslie Nielsen. It was
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Flipper. Could have seen The Truth About Cats and Dogs with Janine Garofalo.
And Uma Thurman.
The Craft. I don't remember that one.
That's a witch movie with Neve Campbell.
You could have seen The Birdcage is still kicking in theaters.
Well, we talked about that at the last show with Ed.
Yeah. So anyway, pretty. Well,
but Mission Impossible and
May
Twister.
May 31st, though, it's always going to be a good movie weekend, usually.
Yeah.
It's going to be where your blockbusters are coming.
Right, like Eddie.
So, So Mission Impossible, Twister, Dragonheart were the only 3 that beat it. Eddie did okay.
It did okay, but it didn't do right because, unfortunately, I think of the first weekend.
I don't imagine many people went the second weekend.
It made about $30 million total. It cost about that to make. So
it broke even, perhaps.
When you consider marketing, it lost money.
So, and I don't think Whoopi was probably cheap at the time.
No, I'm sure she was. I mean, she's coming off. She's an Oscar winner for Ghost.
Yeah.
And she just made Sister Act, which made a ton of money. Both Sister Acts. So, yeah, she at that point was certainly a top-billed actress.
So, Eddie is the new coach of the Knicks. You had never seen it.
I've never seen it.
I did see it back in the 90s.
Was it one of the greatest movies you ever saw when you saw it at the time, just like Twister? Just how dumb a kid were you?
I don't think that Twister takes crazy. So you're 17 years old and you see tornadoes blowing.
I saw it when I was 17. I had seen Pulp Fiction a couple years earlier. I wasn't thinking this is the best movie ever. Like Pulp Fiction's
You're
great.
taking it the wrong way. You take everything the wrong way.
Because you say things the wrong way. You sound like an idiot.
I saw it on the big screen. I was like, wow. Blown away. What's wrong with that?
This is what movies are supposed to be. Is that what you said? This is how movies are supposed to be made? Is that what you said earlier? Like, this is what movies are supposed to be.
I'm not even going to tell you what I thought of Independence Day a month later.
I actually like that way too much too.
Changed the course of human history.
I did a similar Independence Day too.
I did the exact same thing with Independence Day. I watched it the first night. I tried to get him to go back to watch The Late Show that night. I watched Independence Day 3 times in the theater. The only movie I've ever seen 3 times in the theater.
The first time I saw Independence Day, I really loved it. Like, it was like a top 5 movie for
me. How many movies have you seen twice in the theater in its original run?
A few. I'd say about 7 or 10.
Yeah, I would say that for me too.
Yeah.
Probably 5. I saw Major League twice.
Oh wow! Did you? You were so young. Your dad didn't care.
No. Me and my mom went the first time.
Nice.
And I came home. I told my dad how great it was, and he took
wanted
me.
to. Yeah. That happened with me a lot too.
So I did that. I Dumb and Dumber twice. Twister and Independence Day both twice. Yeah, maybe Austin Powers and Goldmember.
Yeah.
I just love the Austin Powers series. But anyway, we're talking about Eddie.
Yeah.
Last week we had Ed.
Yes.
This is a bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tragically bad movie. That couldn't have been good. Could this have been good?
No, probably not. This is better than Ed.
This is a functionally made movie.
I don't know if it was. I think Ed is like significantly more entertaining.
So there were times this can be boring, and there's not. And
I wasn't really bored by this stuff.
And the comedy writing here is rough.
Well, it took 6 screenwriters, which is bizarre. You never see a movie with 6 screenwriters. Eddie pulled it off, and it feels so disjointed watching it. You feel like you're watching 6 different movies.
Yeah, but Eddie's like this wisecracking street tough character, right?
Yes.
And her wisecracks aren't wise. Her street tough isn't tough. Like her trash talk be like she's walking up and a guy has a sign. And she's like, "Hey, you with the sign? That's a bad sign, buddy." Like that's how she talks. Hey, number 23, you're not as good at basketball as the other players, are you? That's her trash talk. That's the level of the dialogue they wrote for her.
Well, it's a PG-13 movie. They wanted it. You could tell they really dialed down the language, and it really needs. This only works if it's an R. But then if it's an R, you're not going to get kids to watch it. Like no one's going to go and see it.
This is Little Big League. This is for Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, it's like the middle-aged woman version of Little Big League.
Yeah. Where that guy's just made the coach, but she gets made the coach too. Yeah, it's
the fun of Little Big League though. A lot of it is like, all right, like it's this kid. How does the kid react there? Like just seeing another adult become a coach, it loses that fun.
Well, and you mentioned Hoosiers and him being a coach. She never actually does anything as a coach.
Oh, that's not true. At one point, she goes,
she takes
play
a charge.
defense.
She does. She said that's her. Her coaching method is being in the bench and turning the crowd and saying defense, defense. Like she just starts chants. That's her coaching method.
Very good. And the Knicks won. Knicks made the playoffs.
And there's some bizarre rabbit holes with other storylines like Rick Fox is in. Let me say this as a positive for this movie. The snapshot of mid-90s basketball is pretty good.
The amount of stars.
They got everybody.
Stars.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
They're playing the Sacramento Kings. Like, all right, maybe you get Mitch Richmond. No, you get Olden Polynice. You get like everyone who play. Like, you get the whole team.
You got the Kings. And when they play the Cavs, you got the Cavs. Brad Daugherty. You got the Cavs. Like, you got a tremendous snapshot of exactly what mid-90s basketball was. And
all the uniforms are right.
I almost want. It was almost like every time a team came to town, they filmed a game.
I have to imagine it.
Yeah,
I have to
because even Muggsy Bogues, who's in the movie, is on crutches. He's hurt, so I would imagine he was just hurt.
He actually was hurt. Yes,
and they couldn't write him into the script, but they have him like on crutches, and it's the uniform, like the Cavs uniforms were stark. The Kings uniforms were great.
Even Dennis Rodman, he pops up with the Spurs.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's when, but you could tell, like, the Spurs it must have been what happened. Now, I just wonder, it didn't look like the Garden. I know the Garden has gone through a massive renovation.
It's not the Garden.
It's not the Garden. I was just the Garden last night.
Yeah.
And I was, like, looking around. I'm like, is there any way? I'm like, there's no way.
It's not the Garden at all. They show wide shots of actual games, but even the court that they use, you can tell it's a very generic court that they put the Knicks logo on. It's not. It was never the Madison Square Garden court. The blue was also a little bit off, if you noticed that.
Yeah.
And I think it's the Charlotte Coliseum. I looked up where it was shot, and it was shot in multiple arenas, but I think it's the Charlotte Coliseum.
So anytime someone's going to play the Hornets, they just would.
The seats are teal.
They are.
The seats are teal.
Yes.
Yeah. The seats are teal, and it's just not Madison Square Garden. They fake it a little bit, but they obviously couldn't get MSG.
Right.
So, yeah, and Eddie, I'm gonna let you talk.
Okay.
So we talked about Ed. Now talk about Eddie.
Yeah. So Eddie has a lot of problems. Like we said, it has 6 screenwriters. The ending of the movie shifts dramatically. So, for the most part, Wild Bill, the owner, played by Frank Langella, is kind of this quirky guy, but you don't really know his motivation. It's not really clear,
Right.
like if he's good or bad or whatever. And at the beginning of the 3rd act of the movie, he gives her a box. Now, in this box could easily be a engagement ring, but instead it ends up being keys to a new penthouse because he's told her he's going to sell the team to St. Louis businessmen.
Yeah.
The Knicks would never be sold to a St. Louis. It doesn't make any sense. But regardless, he then becomes an evil character the last 30, very abruptly. There's a whole 180.
This speaks to your 3-act thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't make his heel turn until the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Right.
He's a fine guy up until 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden, with 20 minutes left in the movie, I actually had nefarious plans all along, and I don't give a shit about you. You're just a pawn to me. You get out there and dance and make me money. That's basically what he tells her. And then he shows up to Madison Square Garden, and he's got three businessmen with briefcases to buy the St. Louis to buy the Knicks.
Right, and move them.
Like that's how you sell teams.
Right.
And they only this is my favorite part. They only wanted to buy the team if they won the game.
That's right. They only would buy the team if they made the playoffs, so the Knicks would have to win. If they didn't make the playoffs this one year, then they were not going to move the team.
Feels like you'd want them not to make the playoffs. Feels like the value would be a little bit
right. Right. Or you wouldn't care at all because you're buying the team for this future, not for this random one season where you don't even own the team. You literally would not care.
I am anxious to know your thoughts on the Knicks basketball players. Because there's a mix of John Sally as the veteran, Rick Fox is in there, Mark Jackson is in there, Malik Sealy. I'm anxious to see your thoughts. Is that Dwayne Shintz is playing?
He's Ivan.
Ivan played defense,
and then Greg Ostertag as well.
Is he the dumb one?
Yes,
that's Ostertag.
Yep,
I didn't know that. So is Malik Sealy the one that doesn't pass?
He's the one. Right. He's
Stacey Patton.
Yes.
Now. The idea here is that Stacey Patton is their best young player and their most highly paid. He's their star, but he never passes the ball. And they hammer this down so much. I don't think you ever see Stacey Patton be good at basketball until the very, very end.
Very end.
He's awful.
Yeah.
He doesn't make a shot.
And they replaced him in the lineup with a very old John Sally, who, by the way, their height differential's huge. They would never play the same position.
Could not have played the same position.
But regardless, they put him in there, and they immediately become very good.
And they also, they don't have a bench.
No bench.
When John Sally goes in, he's just in.
Yeah.
He never comes out. When Stacey Patton comes out, he never goes back in.
They say that. They even make the announcement. They're like, this is the first time Stacey Patton sat on the bench all year. And you're like, he plays 48 minutes a game every – what the fuck is happening?
No wonder he's tired as hell. And there's – okay, so –
So you see stuff like that that infuriates me because you have all these NBA players reading the script. You have – obviously, they must have had licensing for the uniforms. There's a number of NBA people involved with this movie.
Yeah. And
they don't – like, how does stuff like that slip by?
But here's the thing. NBA was very freewheeling with their license back then. NBA players and teams are in Space Jam.
Yep.
Forget Paris.
Yes.
They're just in that. Like NBA was like, you want to make a movie about us? Fine. Whatever. Here's our property. And it's I don't know if it's a cheat code, but if you're doing a sports movie about a professional league and you can't get the license, just don't do a sports movie.
Well, Any Given Sunday, and they still made a good one.
I guess, but it's still, how much better is that if they're the New York Jets? Or they're the Miami Dolphins.
Probably better, but like I still enjoy that movie. And
how much worse is Major League if the Cleveland Indians
that makes a difference.
Are the Cleveland Hippos?
Right.
It's worse.
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah. How much better is the Natural? Probably not a lot because you love Natural. If the New York Knights or the actual New York Yankees,
I don't think it matters.
I think it does.
See, for that movie, I don't think it matters.
I think it does.
No.
A lot. I'm trying to think of other examples of the one you said. Any Given Sunday is a great example. If that's the New York Giants or the New York Jets or the Miami Dolphins, that's much better. But the
whole thing is they wouldn't be able to, when you had the NFL especially sign off on it, you have to be like a certain kind of movie. You have to be, and the fact that Oliver Stone was doing these things, the NFL was like, fuck no, I'm not talking.
Like Major League took shot. Like the fan. The fan has real teams.
Yeah.
And it's a story of murder.
Right.
So don't tell me that
I think the NFL is different than MLB. That's the thing.
Yeah, I guess they were a little stingier.
Yeah. The fan is...
But the fact that this movie, this poorly made movie, this poorly acted movie, this terrible movie, just is in the world of the NBA and you get to live the NBA is interesting.
The movie's very bad, but yet the cast isn't terrible. You have Richard Jenkins, who's an Oscar-nominated actor.
What did he get nominated for?
The Visitor.
So when I see Richard
6 feet under.
When I see Richard Jenkins, who does Richard Jenkins?
Dad from Step Brothers.
The dad from Step Brothers.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I see that guy and I'm like, Dad from Step
Yeah.
Brothers. And another little big league thing, Dennis Farina plays to a T the exact same role in this movie as he played in Little Big League.
I like to live in a universe where it's actually the same guy, and he just manages to coach.
Yeah,
he has the ability to coach basketball and
because this was a couple years later after the Twins thing went sour. He played a little college basketball. He got in the NBA as an assistant, and now he's
because he's the same guy.
He's the exact same guy. He hates the authority of the owner. He hates the new fangled person that's around his world, and he ends up getting fired.
Right,
and that happens in both movies. Dennis Farina, a solid guy, just throw into that role.
He's a very good actor.
Yeah,
and then you have Frank Langella, who is amazing in Frost Nixon.
No, stop here. Let's talk about his accent.
So this is why the movie always entertained me. Because this character, so Frank Langella, I always thought he was British. He's from New York.
Yeah.
He has a British effect to him.
Yeah.
And he is putting on maybe the worst Texas accent I've ever heard in my life.
Well, let me tell you something, little lady. It's
that's better than he did.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a...
I don't know.
Eddie, you're going to be my ticket. Yeah, he slows it down. You're going to be my ticket to St. Louis.
But then he mixes in this weird British effect.
Yeah.
It's very strange. What makes it even crazier was the two of them working on this movie. They fell in love and were both married at the time. Both immediately started divorce proceedings, each of them. And then they lived together for 5 years. And then Whoopi kicked him out of the house, said, you need to go to the guest home. He's in the guest home for a few months. Whoopi's like, you need to get the hell out of here.
Okay, that's the damnedest thing I've ever heard. The owner of this movie dated Whoopi Goldberg?
Didn't just date her. Like, they lived together for 5 years. And they were so in love, they both immediately got divorces.
What? How long did the tape in this movie?
I don't know. I mean, like, meanwhile, they have no chemistry.
No. Well, I don't think Whoopi has chemistry with anybody in this movie. Whoopi's bad. Whoopi's terrible in this movie.
See, I don't think she's.
It's like she just showed up the day before and is just reading the lines.
Yeah, you really hate her performance here.
I hate it. Like, I'm not trying to hate on her, although whatever. But like Sister Act, fine movie. She's just fine.
A lot more effort in Sister
Act.
Ghost, she's
fine.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Other movies that she doesn't.
There's a movie called Karina with Ray Liotta. She's very good in that.
She's terrible here.
I don't think she's terrible.
I
think Frank Langella is worse.
It's like you dropped a person who never saw basketball into this movie and said, be a basketball expert.
I think I blame the script more than I blame her.
I feel like Whoopi knows a little basketball, though. Wasn't she always at Lakers games back in the day?
I thought she was at Knicks games.
Knicks? I thought she was Lakers.
I don't know. I was in New York.
I just feel like Magic Johnson would hit a pass and you look at the crowd and Whoopi Goldberg be standing up.
I don't have those memories.
You're so old.
It doesn't make... No.
You don't remember anything.
I do remember everything. I have very good memory.
What's your least favorite part of this movie?
Well, the worst part of this movie is the Frank Langella character. Wild Bill, like, is just his motivation shift from act to act, or even from scene to scene. He has a horrible accent. He has no why couldn't you just got a Texas guy? Why not just hire I don't know Billy Bob Thornton or hell hire you? Just have the person be from Mississippi, like anybody but Frank Langella.
Yeah, it's like they were handed a cast and then wrote a movie. They wrote a movie and then they borrowed a cast from somebody else.
Exactly. Right. No one fits.
Like there was a movie that was being made, it got shut down,
Right.
and
They had everyone in the contract.
these actors didn't have anything to do. So, hey, just go do Eddie. And they said, okay, well, put Frank Langella here, put Richard Jenkins here. Richard Jenkins is pretty good.
He's very good.
I don't know what it is about these two bad movies. The assistant coach has been great.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah. The weirdest one. Well, I'll tell you my favorite part of the movie, and Roger Ebert agreed. Wild Bill makes his entrance, and then he sets off fireworks, and the fireworks set Walt Frazier's jersey on fire.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's funny. Also, and I know he's not an actor, but Frazier's acting here is incredible.
Better than half the cast, if not more.
No, incredibly bad.
Oh, that was incredibly good. He's like, "That's my jersey."
That's my jersey. It's like, that's.
I think it's great.
I don't know, man. This movie, Whoopi Goldberg. If you write a movie about a super fan that becomes a coach, give her some basketball knowledge. Give her some, hey, this is what I've been watching you do. You should be doing this. She just shows up and goes, defense, defense.
You know, they should have got Spike Lee.
I wonder if it started off, not he's involved because he does much higher quality of movies. But you got to think Spike Lee was a thought in their brain.
He had to have come up. I mean, they probably asked him to cameo or something. You have to imagine. They had Donald Trump as a cameo in this. Like, they had to.
Donald Trump was in this like 3 times.
Was he?
Yeah. Not only is he's in it once.
Yep.
Comes back later.
Yep.
And then one time, she shows up. She's got a makeover. She's wearing nice clothes now. What do you think? You're Donald Trump? Like Donald Trump.
Right. Oh, they do make that mention.
Donald Trump comes up a lot.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, say whatever you will of him now. That guy just hung around movie sets in the 90s. That guy just hung around. That guy showed up in so many movies.
He agreed to everything. So they're filming a movie that is supposed to be very New York.
Yeah.
He's
always just showing up.
It's just funny now to think because she's on The View and she spends all of her time The View shitting on Donald Trump.
They hate each other, yeah.
And then, meanwhile, like they were in the movie together. I know they didn't have a scene, but it is funny.
Yeah, it's it is funny. What else?
I would say, I'm going to give this a higher score than Ed. But I'd be lying if I said Ed wasn't in some ways more enjoyable to watch.
There's a juggling act here.
Yeah.
Right. This was a badly written movie.
Yep. Very badly written.
Ed was a badly written movie that I don't know how it even got made. Like it was
right.
It was to the point of Ed was like a movie us three would make if we just had if we just said we didn't know what cameras did. We just said, hey, get the guy from Friends and let's make a movie. A lot of talent and effort was in this.
Yes.
And it was just bad. And there's a big difference. There was, outside of the couple character actors, there was no talent in Ed.
No. Jack Warden and Bill Cobb, but yeah.
I'm calling them character actors because they played small characters in that movie. Yeah.
No, but you're right. Ed is a movie.
They took a shot here. Oh, they also released it Memorial Day weekend.
Wild. Well, that's her star power at the time, though.
Yeah, but you don't release things Memorial Day weekend unless you think you got something.
Right.
And they didn't. They didn't have anything.
No. But you can understand. You can pitch a studio. You can pitch this. Like, all right, Whoopi Goldberg's coach of the Knicks. All right, I can kind of get that. Matt LeBlanc plays baseball with a monkey. Like, I'm still like, wait, what? Like,
but here's the thing. In the 90s, they made those movies.
They did.
Air Bud. They were just looking for, and Air Bud was making millions of dollars on the direct tape thing.
They made sequels that went to even the theater.
Air Bud made money.
Yes,
and that's why they were chasing the Air Bud money. This, I don't know where the demand was for.
Oh, so you're excusing so you have you.
I think it's. I can see Ed being made before I see this being made.
No.
Well, I need a Whoopi Goldberg basketball movie.
Chasing that Air Bud money.
That Air Bud money was probably stupid. It's probably sick money in Air Bud.
I'm sure it was. Yeah. You're trying to build a franchise around Ed.
Yeah, you were gonna have Ed playing football next. You were gonna have Ed playing basketball.
The Ed cinematic universe.
Yeah, you were trying to build something with Ed, and
you know what? If you made an Ed 2, like bring LeBlanc back, and then you bring back the monkey, but you don't make any sophisticated changes to the monkey. It's the same monkey.
Like Matt LeBlanc has retired from baseball.
Yes,
and he's got a kid, and the kid's playing youth football. And he can't quite get it. And all of a sudden, Ed just scrambles and throws a dart, and then the kid goes out and catches it. We've got Ed 2.
I'd watch that.
We got Ed 2.
But would you watch Eddie 2? Unless you had to for the show.
Let me tell you something. I'm such a I love the 90s so much, and I love the fact that we lived through a time where they could make bad sports movies. They can't make bad sports movies. Now, they got to nail every one of them because they make so few of them. They make so few movies. So you could find stuff like that. I loved that we existed back then. And if they had the NBA license and I got to do another snapshot of the NBA, I loved it. I loved that part of it.
Me too.
So I would watch that all day. I would watch Eddie too, is what I'm trying to tell you.
You'd watch Eddie. You'd watch Eddie too.
I wouldn't expect it to be good, but I would adore
Eddie too back on the bench.
I would adore the basketball scenes.
Okay.
Because I love 90s basketball.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
It was really fun seeing those players. It's kind of in a way it's kind of like playing NBA Jam. It's like, oh, cool. Like I forgot about that. Or you see Gary Payton even pops up. Gary Payton, great NBA Jam player. Pops up in this.
Which is weird because you have all these NBA players playing in the games.
Yes.
Gary Payton just shows up on a street ball court.
Yeah.
Gary Payton just shows up playing Stacey Patton. And I still, there were a couple scenes. We got to talk about this before. There were 2 scenes where Eddie shows her people skills, I guess, or coaching skills that have nothing to do with basketball. So one of them is Rick Fox is going through a divorce, right? Rick Fox's character is going through a divorce. And
because he cheated.
Because he cheated on his wife last season, right? And she doesn't trust him anymore. And Eddie's trying to talk him into it. Hey, you just gotta eat it. You gotta eat it. You gotta apologize and then apologize and then apologize. And then Eddie sets up the wife coming on the road with Rick Fox. And Eddie is putting flowers in Rick Fox's hotel room in advance of the wife getting there, but the wife hadn't called yet. Eddie hears Rick Fox and a lady coming down the hall, and she hides under the bed.
Right.
Rick Fox comes in, they get on the bed, him and the lady get on the bed, and they start to do what
things are happening.
They start to do what people do. Eddie comes out from under the bed and just in the most, I don't know if it's stereotypical, but like just the most old school.
Oh, so corny.
Way, young lady, you should be ashamed of yourself, and just doing all that stuff ends up being his wife.
Oh boy, Whoopi.
That's just Whoopi. like it's just one of the craziest scenes. And then the next scene,
the funniest thing, they weren't even mad.
Weren't mad at all.
No, they're like
they're trying to fuck on
very
the bed.
private moment, and then she's there. Like I would be like, what the fuck?
What are you doing here?
Oh,
Coach?
Whoopi.
Why are you here? and so that ends up in the next scene, and this is even crazier to me. The next scene, Stacey Patton is the player. That's their best player. That just
Mike Steely.
The problem with him, he never passes the ball.
Right.
Won't pass it. So Eddie sends a limo to get him to take to practice, and the limo goes past the garden and
wait a second.
Yeah, he's like, whoa, what's going on here? And it drives to a street ball court.
Yeah, right in Greenwich Village, right by Comedy Cellar on West 4th. Yeah.
Really? That's where it is?
I think so.
It goes to that one?
Yeah.
No.
The subway stop is right. They clearly show the subway.
I got to watch this now. I live literally right across from there.
No wonder he was confused. That's not even close.
Yeah. No.
Right.
No, 30 blocks away.
So the limo driver takes him to this park, and he looks out, and there's people playing street ball. It's Gary Payton, a couple other old NBA players. I can't remember exactly who they were, but Gary Payton's one of them. And Stacey Patton, did you love this part where Stacey Patton's limo pulls up? And they get to the end of the game, and they're all like, whoa, whose car is that? Whose limo is that? And the players, en masse, walk to the limo and lean in comically to the window and look, who's in that limo? Like, I don't think limos are that big of a deal in New York City. And he rolls the window down and says, it's Stacey Patton. It says, do you want to come out and play ball? He ends up going out and playing Gary Payton. He beats him. And he still isn't getting the lesson. Well, it turns out his mom is there. Whoopi is called his mom, and his mom comes and grabs him by the ear and then starts chastising all the people. Yep. And I still have no idea where the lesson came in. How did he learn to pass the ball by playing one-on-one street ball with this guy?
Oh, bro, I love that it's one-on-one too, because there's 4 guys.
He's trying to learn how to pass.
I assumed, he'll join this team and they'll but no, he plays one-on-one. Yeah, it's very strange
and beats the guy.
Right,
he beats the guy. So how did he learn the lesson to pass the ball?
Yeah, not really explained.
And what was his mom mad about? It's wild.
Because then his mom even turns on Whoopi at one point.
Oh, yeah. I said Whoopi comes out and says, I hate I had to call your mom. Don't even let me get started on you, Missy.
Yeah, she also hates Whoopi. Very angry mom.
Yeah, it's a bad movie, Chris.
It's very bad. I'm going to give this a 23.
What'd you give Ed?
An 8.
I think I gave Ed like a 12 or 13.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm right on the same with you. I'll just go one number higher, 24.
Okay.
It's a really bad movie, really shitty movie.
Really bad. I will say this though, whatever it's worth, you put a gun on my head right now and says, Chris, you need to watch one of these movies again. I'm gonna watch that again over this. Like, just watch that movie.
I'm watching that too.
Like,
I'm watching that too.
That's funny shit.
Because I was just at some point in this movie, I was like, when does this? All right, when do we get?
I was doing some clock watching with Eddie.
I was like pausing.
I had to stop it a couple times.
You know how you pause it to see where it is in the movie? All right, I got 40 minutes left.
you ended up continuing it.
I fell asleep the night before, and I ended up watching the last game last night. How could you
fall asleep during this? Epic.
Buddy, I can fall asleep at any
No, I was
point.
I had a couple times I had to stop and like go get snacks. I'm like, I just gotta this is just a dreadful watch.
Now, I asked this question last week. 2 questions I asked last week I got to ask this week, so we can keep them going.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Is there a world this could have been a good movie? I think there is.
So when you say, are you talking about the same cast, or are we talking about like just basically the premise?
I'm saying, could you have made this premise good?
Yeah, I guess fan becomes.
Because I say
yes.
It
has to be a lot harder.
I say yes.
Grittier movie.
Little Big League exists and it is good.
Right. I also think you could go the other way and make it like, how would it really be? Like the players would hate you. Like, how would you deal with that? The players would not want to deal with the fans. So yeah, I think there is a chance where it could be decent.
And my second question, which I did last week.
Yep.
I don't know if you're prepared.
I am prepared.
You have to trade. You have to make a trade from movie 1 to movie 2. You have to take one character from Hoosiers.
Or we can even do multi.
I'm
a 1-for-1, but
you have to do a trade from Hoosiers to Eddie, and it has to make both movies better.
Ideally better, right?
What you got?
Okay, you know her kind of like her whorish friend.
Yeah.
I would trade her with Barbara Hershey.
Okay, but how does that make Eddie better?
Because I think the dynamic with like Hershey being kind of a cold blanket to like all of Whoopi's nonsense. I think it's funny.
I think that
dynamic.
I love the idea of dropping 1950s sitting on a corncob ass Barbara Hershey, Indiana ain't never been nowhere, dropping her in New York City in 1996.
I think it's a funny dynamic, and I think like that other woman, she's a lot of fun. Like that's a girl you don't need to party, have a good time with. She's a blast. I think she'd loosen him up.
All right. Well, mine is not as good as yours. I like yours. So your trade. We didn't talk about her character, but she's in it a couple times.
Yes.
Every time Whoopi goes to a game, she's with her, and she's just a whore.
She just demands to wear. She tries to make Whoopi a whore as well. She's like, you need to wear a low cut. There's men at these games. Every line she has is like somehow revolving around sex. Meanwhile, like you're in New York.
She's too happy too.
You're an attractive woman.
She's
in New
too
York.
happy.
I'm sure you could find.
She's never mad.
She's never mad. Always horny, never mad. It's a good way to go through life, I guess. Maybe you're dangerous.
So mine is I don't even remember Zimmerman. It's her assistant coach.
Oh, Richard Jenkins.
Richard Jenkins plays it. His name is Zimmerman.
Zimmerman.
And he's the assistant, and he's mild mannered, and he's one of the only guys that he never really has a problem with Eddie.
Yep.
He always is agreeable, and they end up striking up a friendship, and he's right there with her. And even in the last game, he speaks up and says, "Actually, we should do this." And
I thought actually the movie was going to end with her stepping down, him becoming the coach.
Yeah. So take Zim.
Okay.
Give him to Hoosiers, and take Shooter Flatch and put him in Eddie. Norman Dale desperately needs a friend. He desperately needs somebody sitting on the bench with him to help him. He desperately needs somebody he can talk to. He desperately needs somebody in that town who is agreeable, and that's what Zim is. Give him Norman Dale, and now this movie desperately needs somebody to be interesting, to be upset the status quo. Throw me drunk-ass Shooter Flash into this locker room in 1990, and I think I got something.
I don't like your trade. I think it's good in the Eddie perspective, but without Shooter, Hoosiers gets boring. Like, we need a crazy drunk running around the court, acting antics and whatnot.
I don't think Shooter plays as big a role in Hoosiers as people think. Like, he's not that pivotal a role.
No, but he comes in. He's a little bit of life to this movie. Sometimes it's like the Barbara Hershey stuff. You're like, Jesus. At least he has a pulse.
I feel like if you lost your Shooter Flash, but you also lost Barbara Hershey and substituted with a little bit more basketball, that would be fine.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's no reason for the love story to even be in this movie. I agree with that.
It's just her trying to run a practice and Shooter Flash stumbling in.
Love it. I don't love it on the other end. I thought
you liked Zim over here. Oh, you don't want to lose Shooter Flash.
I make Hoosiers too
boring. There's nobody else quality here.
I told you that Hershey for the easy woman trade.
I like your trade. Yours is the best, but I was just in my mind Stacey Patton to his team, and Jimmy Chitwood to that team. That's just funny to me.
That would be great.
Yeah, Jimmy
just wouldn't say anything. He'd just sit there and shoot.
No, but that's what they needed on that team.
Right.
They need somebody that would shut up every now and then. They need somebody who just play.
And then you want to see grumpy
Stacey
Patton with
Patton,
Norman Dale.
Him putting him through the drills.
Yeah.
We're gonna practice. We're gonna practice without a ball. Like, Stacey Patton ain't doing that.
No.
I love the Stacey Patton name. That's a good name. It's a good name.
And I will say, Stacey Patton, I think, is a precursor to what Stephon Marbury became in the Knicks. A little bit of
yeah. What were the name? That was Yvonne was the big guy.
Yeah.
Wilson was John Sally's character.
I forget
Mark Jackson was named Preacher Franklin or something. Which I
wait, what were you talking about? I was looking at Mincy's dancing on the Vandy Whistler's grave.
Why?
Not Well, he died.
The Vandy Whistler died?
He died.
How old is the
The announcement went out, and Mincy liked the tweet announcement.
Jesus Christ!
So I was like, did he mean to do this?
Which one?
Is this just a prototypical
There's two
Mincy
of them, so.
oblivious fuck up?
Is the Vandy Whistler an old
It
man?
was the old man.
Yeah,
the
older.
old man.
All right.
There were two old men.
Yeah. So not dancing on his grave. But
One had curly, dark gray hair. One had just almost white hair.
not great.
Greg Ostertag played Joe Sparks.
Yeah.
Rick Fox played Terry Hastings. Oh, you know what? I saw a funny thing looking up this movie. Joe Klein, the Phoenix Sun center's in this movie, he got a residual check from it. 39 cents.
Oh.
And he posted the check, but he got it for Eddie. It's
Yeah.
pretty great.
Yeah.
So he's still getting his residual.
Joe Klein got a jumper up in this movie.
Kurt Rambis was the coach of the Lakers.
Oh, yeah,
Another
because-
rando.
No, remember because
Right.
Eddie walked up to him and said, "Hey, can I get an autograph?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, coach." And he said, "No, will you take it to Jack Nicholson?"
Right.
Yeah.
But
Who
Rambis was not a coach of the Lakers very long.
Who, by the way, they would have been cool if Jack Nicholson had been sitting there.
It would have been amazing.
If he just showed up in Eddie's,
It would have been great. that would have been as great as when Ed showed Friends.
Yeah. All right. So next week
We got football.
we're going Friday Night Lights, which you've never seen.
Never seen
The movie.
I've never seen the movie yet.
That's crazy.
Seen every episode of the show at least twice. I've
Really?
done two
Forget the
watches.
show.
Forget the show.
Do not even think about the show.
Okay, I
The
will
show
not.
is good, but it's just not the movie.
Okay, I'm
It's
very
a
excited.
It's a fictional account of what the movie is based on.
I'm very excited for that. And
Did you ever read the book?
No.
Okay.
The
Wait, of all of it was a book, a movie, and TV show, and the only one you saw was
only
TV
one I
show?
saw was the show.
Yes, probably a lot of people, but
Isn't that, it's
that's the only one I haven't seen. I read the book and I saw the movie. I never saw the show.
Oh, okay.
I tried to watch the show once, the first or second episode, when Riggins or whatever is 16 years old, and his character is written like he's a 38-year-old.
Oh, he is. Yeah, the entire time.
He's got adult problems.
Oh, yeah.
I'm getting into that shit.
Texas forever.
Takes
Yeah.
forever. Yeah, Riggins is Riggins is a middle-aged man the entire time. And the bad movie, quote unquote,
Draft Day.
Draft Day with Kevin Costner.
I'm torn on this one. I like Draft Day.
Well, we'll talk about it. Well, we got to watch. Well, I'll be watching
We
it
should
again.
see if Aaron Foster has anything to say about it.
Was he in that?
Yeah, he's in it.
I forget that. I haven't seen. I haven't.
He's the running back. He's Ray Jennings.
Oh my gosh, maybe he does.
Yeah.
I'm sure he does.
So, all right. Did you think this episode was good? I didn't think you were as good this week.
No.
No, I thought you were better last week.
All right. I thought the episode was better last week. I think this is okay.
Well, we had Ed last week. Ed was special.
Ed was special.
Ed was, I mean,
Pivot this.
Do you
to
think
a,
you were as good this week as you were last week?
I'm good every
pivot
week.
this
that's
to a
so cool.
podcast about movies with animals in them?
Yeah.
I think I was probably just as good.
Why don't we? What if we just did good movie every week and Ed? and we just watch Ed and like by the 37th time, we're just really into the
What if we start to love it?
the minutia of Ed. Like,
We would be like,
now,
oh,
what were they trying to say here?
right. Ed actually is great. Yeah, by the 38th time, it's like, oh, Ed's great.
When Ed used the bathroom here, what was the director trying to say to us about modern technology?
Sports Ed could be the new name.
Oh man. All right, let's close this out.
All right.
This show brought to you by nothing.
Yet. Thank you for watching Double Play. I'm Chris Klemmer. That's Brandon Walker.
You're not gonna make us a logo, by the way.
He's not going to do it.
I'm
Somebody
not
else.
going to do it.
I have somebody else who's supposed to.
I thought
I don't
everybody.
get paid enough.
I thought the Lights
not
Camera
making-
Barstool universe just had somebody did everything.
Ask Nick. Nick's good
No,
at making-
Jeff has someone who's going to.
You didn't say anything about my MVP for performance in Arizona.
I watched it. I did. Actually, you lied. I fucking texted you. You didn't even text me back about it, so fuck you.
Good show.